Well, Afghanistan is everyone's problem somehow, as was just said. I mean, stability in Afghanistan is a priority for the United States, just like it is for closer neighbors, Russia and China, just like it is for Pakistan and India next door as well to Afghanistan, just like it is for Iran. So everyone in the region and outside of the region has an interest in a stability in Afghanistan. Definitely not another civil war. At the same time, Joe Biden has been trying to rebalance this decoupling I was referring to a few minutes ago, rebalance it with diplomacy, withdrawing troops, demilitarizing the effort, which doesn't mean the United States is entirely leaving. He's offered humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan. The Taliban are saying this is neo-colonialism, we don't want any development aid or anything. But there are offers on the table. If the Taliban cut down on drug trafficking, smuggling, etc., if Afghanistan becomes, at last, not a haven for terrorists, but a country that tries to belong to the international community. The G7 today had a priority, which was an emergency, which is the emergency we are witnessing on our screens every day. But we can imagine the next G7 pretty soon implementing, deciding, and delivering on sanctions against the Taliban government. So most definitely this economic pressure, financial pressure, which the IMF as well has been putting on this new emirate of the Taliban in Afghanistan, this pressure is going to build up, and the Taliban know it. If they are now turning against the brain drain that they are witnessing, saying that our assets, our human assets, cannot board these planes, most definitely it's because they have understood that the hardest part for them is to come. The hardest part now is going to run the country, is going to save the economy, is going to not to foment unrest, massive unrest out of poverty, not just out of human rights being denied, but out of stark poverty in Afghanistan, now that international assistance is going to fade, including China's, if the Taliban do not ensure security in Afghanistan for any Chinese plan for development in the country.
Shukria DELLAWAR, where will the Taliban turn, following up on what Annick just said, for international help? Is it Pakistan, or is it China, or can they try to be self-reliant? You were wondering aloud in part one of our discussion just how ideological they would be.
I mean, there's definitely a change in the way they've been messaging when they were last in power to the way they are messaging with the media as they've held the country today. So you can see they're actually become a little bit more technical and PR and media savvy. I do feel like Pakistan, China will provide aid, but they've also been talking to Tehran, to Beijing. So it's regional countries will help, but I think it all depends on one thing. Like the moment is lost for the US and other allies that were involved in the coalition, because we have lost the country to the Taliban. That's the reality. The next step really has to be focused on how do you, if they're sincere in what they're saying, how do you get them to rule the country in a way that it serves the Afghan people? That's really the bottom line from where I stand, because this is 40 million people you're talking about. Currently there's IDPs, refugees, famine, pandemic patients are increasing. It's a total humanitarian catastrophe with 50% of the population severely affected by it. So the Taliban don't have the technical expertise to run the country. They will need financial aid and humanitarian assistance. And if they get sanctioned, who's going to suffer still? It's Afghans. So there has to be now a focus with the UN Security Council to bring about a transitional government that's going to reflect what the people's needs are in Afghanistan and to contain the Taliban through a united coalition that works with UN Security Council, but also to really involve the regional countries through diplomacy. If we failed in the last 20 years to do the right thing, we need to, as the international community, really be able to do that in the years ahead.